What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. Today we are doing the Houston Texans, a very interesting team with a really shitty organization. Houston Texans have been quite the headliner for the wrong reason over the past offseason, and justifiably so. They've done a lot of stupid things, get rid of D-Hop, trade for David Johnson, and Brandon Cooks, and then like sign a tackle to $22 million a year, just some stupid shit like that. Uh, but yeah, let's look at the team. Quarterback, their bright spot, Deshaun Watson, easily top 10 quarterback. I say maybe he's number 6, number 5 in the NFL. Deshaun Watson's an absolute beast game manager, but also has a little bit of that it factor. And he has those legs. He's a really good leader. He's all around just an amazing talent, and I think that he deserves the world in football, and I think that he's not getting it. I honestly think that he should request a trade. Running back, David Johnson and Carlos Hyde. David Johnson used to be one of the best running backs in the NFL, hands down. Hands down. And he took a big dive after his MCL sprain and wrist injury. And he really hasn't gotten back to a running start at all. And it's really sad because David Johnson was a very solid talent. Very solid talent. It's kind of sad just to think about how horrible he's become. It's like I see him, and that's not the David Johnson that I know. So, looking at wide receivers, you have Brandon Cooks. It's really weird not saying DeAndre Hopkins. Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, Kiki QT. And those three, they're a solid wide receiver core, but it's not even close to what they used to be. D-Hop, he is an absolute animal, and they really traded him away for, they literally traded him away for Brandon Cooks and David Johnson, and that is just a really horrible idea, and whatever. There's no real need to explain that any further. They have a lot of deep threat options with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller. Kiki QT is more of that route runner type, but he's so young. I think he's 23, 24. And he's not polished route runner. He's super raw. And that's not what a team with a young quarterback on a rookie contract needs. And I think Deshaun Watson really needs to get the fuck out of there. Looking at the line, this is an interesting idea because they have both pieces and they need pieces. They drafted Max Sharping. I forgot the guy out of UAB last year. Not this draft, but the draft before. And then they have it's not Jawan Taylor. That's the guy who I forgot for the last bid for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I keep blanking on the guy's name, but they just signed a $22 million contract from Miami. He fell in the draft because I'm pretty sure he had the gas mask with marijuana. Very interesting. And then I don't really know who the hell their center is, but they have pieces there. It's just they're raw, or else they're overpaid. And I don't think it's enough. Tight end, it's really not a bright spot of this team either. It's just, I think they have Akins there, and I'm not really sure who else they have, man. It's just nobody who stands out. So, honestly, Houston, y'all need to get your head and ass wired together on offense. On defense and defensive line, you have J.J. Watt, Ross Blacklock, great pick. There's really not too much that you have. Whitney Merciless is a pass rusher as well. And then in the linebacking core, you have Benardrick McKinney. And that's kind of it. They have some pieces there, some young options, but Benardrick McKinney's kind of that centerpiece. And then in the secondary, they have a lot of people who have been and kind of elevated their play a little bit. You have Vernon Hargraves there. You, I believe, have Bradley Roby. And then Justin Reed's a beast in the back. So they have pieces, it's just not working. And Deshaun Watson's the only thing keeping them together. So, as you can see, it's unfortunate now that we've gotten so far into this series that most of the games are already decided. But Houston Texans are already 5-8, which means they're not going to be making the playoffs, which is really unfortunate. I feel bad for Deshaun Watson. Again, think you should request a trade. Week 1, Houston goes to Kansas City. This is an obvious one. Kansas City is way too high-powered for Houston. And it's the lights are on. I mean, both quarterbacks are amazing, but Patrick Mahomes is that dude. So I forgot what record did I give the Chiefs? 13-3. That makes sense. I think they lost to Las Vegas in a huge upset. The next week we have Baltimore going to Houston. Baltimore, I mean, again, even more high-powered of an offense overall. Quarterback for Kansas City, obviously, Patrick Mahomes is way better than Lamar Jackson. And people are like, oh, that's kind of a question. That's not a question. Honestly, if you eliminate the run game, it's game over for Baltimore, pretty much. Baltimore's much more high-powered of an offense, much more high-powered of a defense, especially than Kansas City. So, yeah, they're definitely taking the cake. The next week, Houston goes to Pittsburgh, and they're not going to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a solid enough offensive line, a much better wide receiver core than the DB core, and the defense is far superior than Houston's offense overall. I mean, I think this game's going to be closer than what we think, but it's just Houston's not in a good place right now. The next week, we have Minnesota going to Houston. Minnesota's an all-around great team, but at the same time, their best assets are either way too young and developing or getting older. So they're not in the best place, but they're just all around pretty solid. And Houston's just not going to be able to hold up to the consistency of Dalvin Cook and then this passing attack. The next week, Jacksonville goes to Houston. This is finally Houston's game. They're 0-4. Houston finally bites back in the game that they should definitely win. Look at the last video with Jacksonville if you want to see more analysis on this. Again, if you guys want to see my full analysis on all of these, go to the original videos. I mean, I'll always accept more coverage from you guys. And yeah, I mean, right now I think we're at 38 or 39 subs, which is absolutely awesome. Getting super close to 40. I really appreciate it, guys. It is honestly really fun to do this, especially during this time, and then be able to see like, oh, I can actually gain a subscriber here, subscriber there, see a video blow up here, blow up there. It is kind of a morale booster, so thank you guys. The next week, Houston goes into Tennessee. Yes, I know I had a voice crack there. Camel Wolf, you do not need to point that one out. This one is kind of a toss-up game, and I'm going to give it to Houston. I'm going to give Houston the benefit of the doubt. I think that overall, Houston's better than Tennessee. I just think Tennessee's run game is going to be pretty solid, but kind of Houston's bright spot is their run defense in J.J. Watt, Ross Blacklock. I keep blanking on another name of an interior defensive lineman that they have, but they also have Bernardrick McKinney, who's good at pass rushing and stuffing the run, and Whitney Merciless as well. So this team has pieces that are much more equipped to defeat the run game than the pass game of Tennessee. And passing game is just we don't even know what Tannehill's going to be. The next week, Green Bay goes into Houston. Houston's having a big upset here. It's like you're in Houston, and Green Bay's pass rush is really solid, but Houston's starting to have those offensive line pieces, and Green Bay's defense is really solid overall, but the offense is just not there. It's not. If they get Antonio Brown, like I'm hearing they could be, this is totally flipped, and Green Bay might be going 15-1, 16-0. Like that, it would just completely flip it on its head. But again, we're also relying on the fact that Green Bay has to have a repeat season of how good their pass rush was for them to actually be putting up this type of stuff. The next week, you have a bye, and they're fully rested going to Jacksonville. It's going to be a much closer game than this one because you're going to Jacksonville, but you have the extra rest, and I think that's going to put them over the edge. The next week, Houston goes to a fully rested Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are way too powerful. I know they're only 11-5, but they still got it. They still got it, man. They're still pretty damn good. So, yeah, I mean, Cleveland, amazing offense, amazing defense. No need to explain any more than that. Next week, New England goes to Houston. Again, guys, I'm going to do this series with Jarrett Stidham as quarterback, but I'm also going to just talk about what it would be like with Cam. But before the season starts, we'll do it like a much more updated version. So, week 11, like with Jarrett Stidham, I don't think that he's really it at all. This offense is really lackluster, and the defense, you lost 7 starters. I'm giving this one to Houston. With Cam Newton, I still will give this game to Houston. However, it will be so much closer because I don't think Cam Newton is, like, look at my Cam Newton video if you want to see, obviously, 11 minutes of me actually talking about what I think. But I think that Cam Newton, even if he is 50% of what he was, he's going to be better than Jarrett just because he has a running ability and he's 6'6", 250. It's like you don't really want to tackle a dude who can just, like, really stand there and be one hulk of a man. So I think that Houston's going to win this game with Jarrett Stidham by a wide margin, with Cam Newton by a small margin. The next week, Houston goes into Detroit. Detroit's a solid team. I've said this multiple occasions. They just don't have all the talent in the world to be able to compete. A lot of it is young talent or just like poorly used, misused talent. And I think that means they can pull out a couple of games here. They're 4-12. So, I mean, I think that Detroit has the ability to win, but at the same time, they're in a tough division, and they also just might not get everything perfectly right. Next week, Indy goes to Houston. I'm giving this one to Houston. Houston just, they can pull upsets, and Houston's a good team. I mean, they're not bad at all. It's just they're not contention worthy, similar to Detroit, and similar to a couple other teams on this list. They have a good roster, but it's not contention type. Like, they have the pieces, but this NFL is getting so much better that there's not really as many scrubs in the NFL as there used to be. The next week, Houston goes to Chicago. This is a no-brainer. Chicago's offense is far superior to Houston's. I think that if Nick Foles becomes, I think he's honestly a little bit better version of Ryan Tannehill last year. So if he's able to do that, as well as just have that entire defense and the offense just go off, this team would be cooking with Crisco really well. So, yeah, this team, I mean, we saw them, they went 13-3? Yeah, they're pretty solid, guys. The next week, they go to Indy. Indy wins at home field advantage. You're in the dome. It's just really comfortable. And Indy's going to be making that playoff push, while this team's going to be stuck at, 6-8? Well, at the time, 6-7. So, really, 9-7, I don't think would cut it in this. Yeah, because the number 6 seed is 11-5, guys, at the moment. Like, right now, what's the 7th seed? 11-5. So, I mean, again, it's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. The next week, Cincy goes to Houston. Houston still, I mean, Deshaun Watson's a game winner. And in close matchups like this, where the teams are kind of similar, I'll give the advantage to the game winner. I mean, I know Joe Burrow is a damn good quarterback, deserving of that number 1 pick. But at the same time, he's not Deshaun Watson yet. We'll see how he turns out to be. Because remember, Deshaun Watson was like the best rookie ever statistically before he got injured. So you never know. Joe Burrow could definitely be that. And finally, the last week, Tennessee goes to Houston. I'm giving this to Houston once more. They're at home. They're going to say, fuck you to the Titans. You guys aren't even going to think about making a playoff push. And they're going to put them in the dirt because Ryan Tannehill he's a good game manager. I like this new idea where you run the ball with Derrick Henry and then you pass with Ryan Tannehill when you need to, rather than rely on Ryan Tannehill. But it's not enough. It's not enough. It's enough to get you 8-8, 9-7, and get you into the playoffs sometimes. But now Cleveland's having a resurgence. Baltimore is Baltimore. Pittsburgh's having a resurgence. Indy's having a resurgence, and then Denver's having a resurgence. It's not the right time. The league is starting to become much more of a disparity, much more of a polarization between good teams and bad teams, and it's pretty obvious. And it's going to be very interesting to watch this season. So let me know what you guys think. 8-8, obviously. I mean, this team's always 10-6 to 8-8. They're just like that's always their record bubble. And it's unfortunate. And I think Deshaun Watson should leave. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the far side. Peace.